This is Cydni.
And I'm Sher. And each week we get together to share with you a message of hope.
It is through our own study and our personal experiences that we offer the reminder to not only seek the light,
but be the light. You can find peace, and there is hope.
And as long as one of us is slightly caffeinated, there will be laughter.
In honor of Valentine's week, today's episode is about love.
Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Deny thy father and refuse thy name, or if thou wilt not be
Okay,
sworn
that's enough.
What? I wasn't done. I've been practicing all week.
Poor Ben.
And we're so glad you're here.
I'm forging my way through the tip-tip-top. I'm living my life through the drip-drip-drop.
All right, since you're the one who wanted to do this episode about love for Valentine's week, Cydni, what do you have for us?
It wasn't just me that wanted to do this. I could feel it from our audience. They were like, please. I love Valentine's Day and I want to hear more about love.
I'm sure.
My favorite topic, please. Well, I think the best thing we always do, honestly, if I could pat ourselves on our back, is we always go to the experts. And so I did that right away. And I felt who would know about love more than 5 to 8-year-olds?
Oh, that's a good source.
So I'm going to read to you about love. We're going to start with Bert, age 5. He says, once I'm done with kindergarten, I'm going to find me a wife.
You go, Bert.
Marianne, age 4, she says, love is when your puppy licks your face, even after you left him alone all day.
Oh.
I did a nice animal one to make up for the other things that I've said about animals.
And it was fresh, too. Good job.
We're going to go now with Chrissy, age 6. Love is when you go out to eat and give somebody most of your French fries without making them give you any of theirs.
That is love.
I don't know if I'll ever experience that kind of love. Give me your French fries. When is it okay to kiss someone? Pam, age 7, ask. When they're rich. I like that,
sister.
Pam. Sounds like my daughter. Then, according to Howard, age 8, he says, the rule goes like this. If you kiss someone, then you should marry them and have kids with them. It's the right thing to do. Howard does not move fast. Derek, age 8, says, how can a stranger tell if two people are married? You might have to guess based on whether they seem to be yelling at the same kids or not.
Oh, that was a great response.
I love that one. Danny, age 7, says, love is when my mommy makes coffee for my daddy and she takes a sip before giving it to him to make sure it's okay. You don't know your mom, Danny. She's like, don't look at me, dear, until I have some of this coffee. This is Noelle, age 7. Love is when you tell a guy you like his shirt and then he wears it every day. I agree with that one. Mark, age 6. Love is when mommy sees daddy on the toilet and she doesn't think it's gross. But Regina, age 10, she ends with this. I'm not rushing into being in love. I'm finding 4th grade hard enough.
I love her.
So, me too. I loved all of those so much. There's so many, but I'm not going to make this whole episode that, but I could.
It might be better.
Than us talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought we could first turn to kids and what they perceive as love, but I thought it was pretty good. I don't want to share my French fries or my caffeine, but Ben could wear the same shirt every day if he wanted. He would never.
He would never.
No, he's very fashionable.
I just think of middle school and they do wear their shirts, the same one every day.
Middle schoolers do?
Yes. Yes, they do.
Oh, not the kids around us. They're keeping it stylish.
Well, at my school, style was debatable, and sometimes they only had one shirt, so they would wear it every day.
Well, I feel good about myself right now. You're like, yeah, Sid, because they had one, you jerk.
Clue in, Cydni.
So the kids, I think, when you're 4, 5, 6, it's adorable, and I do love these quotes. But middle school, that's a whole different ball game, because when I think of myself in middle school, I wrote a lot of love poetry. A lot.
Oh my gosh, I wish I would have found it on the floor somewhere as your teacher. I would have loved reading it.
It's in all my algebra book. If my algebra books exist still, there's love poems written through all of those books or any math.
I just want you to know if you had a teacher like me and I would have found it in the algebra book or on the floor, wherever, I would have totally been reading it at lunch to all the teachers.
I wonder if that happened. I bet they were like,
did.
She's good.
Yeah, that's what they were saying.
Did William Shakespeare write this? No, but a distant relative, according to Family Tree.
I was always really nice about not reading their notes unless I found it on the floor or in an algebra book.
I think that's fair. I was very, very passionate. I did not have a boyfriend ever, but I still wrote just in case I got a boyfriend, I was ahead of the
You were
fills.
ready.
I was like, how could you tear my heart out into pieces like this? How will I grow into the woman I'm meant to be? Like that. If I read any of my journals from that time, my body goes into like a frozen state of cringe. I didn't even have a boyfriend, but I was ready.
But you were ready just in case. Well, I feel that in middle school, that the whole thing is cringeworthy.
Cringe is the right word.
Yeah, I don't know if I disliked Halloween or Valentine's more as a middle school teacher. They were both horrible. Obviously, Halloween for the candy and the sugar high and kids acting like idiots all day long in their costumes. But Valentine's Day, it's horrible because there's just a few group of kids that walk around with their flowers and their stuffed animals and their candy, and they show it off for everyone. And then the rest of the school, the girls are out crying and the boys are punching each other in the face. I hate it because I spent my day going, it's okay, I'm sorry, as the girls are crying, and then I'm breaking up fights on the other side of the room because you looked at her. It's horrible. It's the worst day ever.
I would definitely have bought myself stuff and carried it around as if someone else gave it to me.
They did.
Oh,
They did do that. I asked, like, there were some girls that we were having this conversation and they all bought themselves stuff and carried it around because they were tired of feeling sad that they didn't have anything. So they all just bought their own stuff. I was proud of them. Like, way to go, girls.
okay. One step in this direction, but a little off, is once while working in Denver, I got the most beautiful bouquet of flowers delivered at work. It was beautiful. And somehow I knew it wasn't from Ben, but I did get flowers. So I called Ben and I said, hey, babe, thanks so much for these flowers. That was so thoughtful. I can't believe you did that. You made my day. And he was entirely silent on the other line. And then he said, you're welcome. He said, I love you so much. And I was like, thank you. And here's what happened. Someone delivered the flowers to the wrong person, which is kind of messed up. He should have let me keep them.
He should have.
And
Wait, he took them away from you?
Yeah, he came back and got them.
Oh, that's cold.
What happened was I knew it wasn't from Ben because it had someone else's name on it, but it wasn't intended for me. But I didn't know that because he just walked in and said, is Mrs. Beer here? And I said, oh, that's me. And I got all these beautiful flowers and I called Ben and he was like, you're welcome. I love you. I'm always thinking of you. I am a lucky man. All these things that he should have said. But I just wanted to know that I got flowers from somebody else because I wanted to make him jealous because it's so good for marriage.
Way to go.
The guy came back and he's like, turns out the same building, the same business down the street was another girl with the last name Beer.
What?
Is that wild?
Yeah.
So the flowers were meant for her, but Ben took all the credit. So I definitely confronted him that night with no flowers in hand. I was like, why'd you take credit? He's like, you might think it sounds like I'm a liar, but I didn't want you thinking another man sent you flowers. Are you kidding? He's like, how many flowers do I have to get you? I'm like, give me caffeine. He's like, I already got you some. And that's why we're still married.
That whole story is just shady from beginning to end. You were shady. He was shady. It's all shady. Now I know why this marriage works.
Well, we do base our whole marriage off of Much Ado About Nothing. Have you seen that before?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the best. I think in the name of love, I should tell you how Ben and I met. It's my favorite story. But I will say our whole grounds for our marriage comes from Much Ado About Nothing. And Beatrice and Bernard, they just bicker at each other the entire time. And I do have friends that say, I have never fought with my husband. And I think you're lying. How do you not fight with somebody you live with a little bit? Ben and I will pick fights because we're bored. Those pants, huh? That's what you decided to go with today? It's fine. It's fine if you like those.
I'm going back to the word that I'm going to stick with, a little shady, but okay, keep going.
So Bernard says to Beatrice in Much Ado About Nothing, thou and I are too wise to woo peaceably. Against my will, I am set to bid you to come to dinner. Fair Beatrice, I thank you for all your pains. I love that so much. It fits us really well. And I do have a lot of friends that say they never fight. And my face usually looks shocked because I'm like, we never not fight. It's like a hobby. We enjoy it. Take marriage advice from me. It's good. But there are...
Can I just interject here? Is it more fighting or snark?
Snark.
Yeah, see, there's a difference. You're snarky.
Well, it starts
Definitely
with snark and then the gloves go on. But this is from a podcaster. He has been podcasting for like 10 years and he has 1,500 episodes. And he put together 7 patterns in couples who do actually make it. And I thought it was interesting. I'll tell you what it is. Number 1, they had boundaries with family. Number 2, they were friends. 3, they had been through really dark times together. 4, they let each other be themselves. 5, they had difficult conversations. 6, they fought. I sent this to Ben. I was like, we're going to make it, baby. And 7, they made light of each other's quirks. I think that's probably the most real list I've ever read in my life. Anyway, I'm going to tell you how I met Ben.
Yeah, I want to know.
Because it's Valentine's Day, I'm going to share our love story. Insert Taylor Swift love story right here. So even though I did write a lot of love poems growing up, and if you want, I could bring some of those journals over and read them to you later, Sher.
Hoping you'd say that.
I should publish it probably for everyone to read. It makes so much. I wouldn't make anything.
Middle school girls might buy it so that they could copy
I
it.
feel exactly the same way. So I did not have a boyfriend all of high school or middle school or elementary or kindergarten. Nothing. I had no boyfriend. I was very shy and reserved when it came to a boy. I honestly wondered if I'd ever even be interested in a boy at that point because I'd have crushes. I really liked shaggy haired boys that played guitar was kind of my look. But then this is what happened. I was at girls camp and one of the instructors said, hey, what we're going to do today is we're going to spend time writing a letter to your future husband. I was 12 at the time. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? I'm not there, bro. I'm not there to write a letter to my future husband. I don't even know if I'm going to make it through 8th grade. I relate to the 4th grader. Yeah. I don't want to be in love. I'm not sure I'm going to make it through 4th grade. That was me.
Where did you say you were doing this?
At girls camp.
Oh my. This is like my definition of hell. Girls camp and writing this letter. Keep going though.
Right? This is where like some culture stuff gets its bad name. You're 12. It's time to think about your husband. What?
This sounds miserable so far, this whole camp. Keep going.
Thank you. So I'm glad that you're in the same feeling instead of like, that's a lovely idea.
No, that sounds awful.
Okay, but I get the idea behind it that you need to be thinking about who you surround yourself with. So I took that energy and I put it to pen to paper and I wrote, please have a cool last name. And that was it. That was my letter. Everyone else was like, I want to dance in the kitchen with our 7 children. I was like, you're going to get divorced, Sandy. Just like my parents, okay?
Your letter is solid so far.
If that letter was going to come true, which it did, I wish I added more, mostly like financial details. So the people in the church camp situation got a hold of my vibe. And they're like, that's all you want is a cool last name. I'm like, yeah, I want a cool last name. So it sounds good when I say my name, when I send my checks. So when I got home, everyone in our town, our small town, started telling me when missionaries came to our town because they go by their last name. So it'd be Elder whatever. And there were some good ones. There was Elder Day, Elder Thigpen, Elder Weed. That was a good one. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't enough for me. And then one day I remember Julie Goodman. She said, Sid, did you hear? There's an elder beer in town. And I said, I am going to marry him.
At 12?
No, by this time I was 17.
You were 17?
This joke still went strong.
Oh my goodness.
I might have years mixed up, but it's all basically true.
You were 13?
No, I met him when I was like 17.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh goodness.
But he was on his mission and he just started. And he went later.
The plot thickens. So what, he's 30 and you're 17?
He's like, you're a little old for our culture. How many children do you have? I don't have any. What? What a waste. Your best years are already behind you. 17, unmarried. My dad's like, how many pigs do I have to give to you to take my old unwedded daughter?
Apparently my dad didn't have enough pigs. That was the issue.
Well, my dad eventually was like, just take her. Don't talk to us again. So then what happens in this story that everyone's probably just on the edge of their seats? I was in love. I hadn't seen him yet, but it was real. And then I always would go to my friend Joni's house for lunch. They made really good bean and cheese burritos, so I was there. And one day when I walked in, let me tell you, Sher, there was the most beautiful man standing at their table. I remember to this day, this yellow tie and this fiery red hair. He was so beautiful. And I told Joni, I don't care what his last name is. That's out the window. I'm going to marry him. She said, that is elder beer. Anyway, I got a little stalky. It's fine.
You were stalking a missionary?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit. But those details can be saved for another time. So Elder Beer was in our small town for a little while. And mostly I just told my friend, hey, Joni, if the elders are coming for dinner, Joni just had one little job to call me when they were coming over. And I'd be like, oh, what a surprise. Elder Beer is here. And Joni's little brother's name was Ben, which I found out was also Elder Beer's first name, Ben. So I'd be like, oh, Ben, you're so adorable and cute. I just love you, Ben. Like that. And her dad would sometimes tell me to knock it off. And I'm like, you don't know what love is, even though he was married and had 8 kids. So Ben ended up coming back through our small town after his mission. He was off his mission. It was 2 years later. So we met in the beginning of his mission. He left. We never talked. He didn't even know who I was other than someone. Julie told him that he was getting stalked by a poor little farmer girl down the street. So she called me actually and said, did you know Elder Beer's back in town? He came back through to say hi to some people. You should go say hi. And I said, Julie, I can't just show up at the house he's staying at randomly because then he will think she legitimately is stalking me, which I was. But I didn't need him to know that. So I was driving to college at this point. I was out of high school. And I just said, okay, if it's meant to be, I'll run into him. And if it's not meant to be. So I dressed up a lot that whole entire week, Monday through Thursday when he would be there and hoping God would pull it together and get me married to this man. But I didn't run into him. So it was Friday and I went back to sweats and a messy bun because he was out of town. Then I just had this thought, what if I just drove by where he is staying? And this is where I black out. I don't really remember how this happened, but I ended up knocking on the door and then he answered. Oh, I remember that still. He was beautiful still. He was like, hey, how are you? Come in. And I was like, oh, hey, my class got canceled. That was a lie. I was like, if I'm going to start this relationship off right, I think I should start it off with a lie. So that's what I went with. Then we ended up going to lunch together that day. And I found out my class was canceled that day. God made an honest woman out of me. Got his number, hooked him. Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. We're going on almost 19 years.
That was a beautiful love story. I love the stalking elements in it. It makes it that much better and pure.
It just makes me feel like I have a bit of a go-getter inside of me after all, because you don't go and knock on someone's door and lie to their face with a messy bun unless you're serious.
I swear I remember you ran into him at the post office or something.
I did. That is true. I just skipped that part.
Okay, at least I didn't make it up.
I prayed to see him one more time because he got a transfer. And I just prayed, please God, let me see that elder one more time. And then I had an impression to go to the post office to get mail, which I never did. I went, got mail, walked out. There were the elders walking towards my car. And Elder Beer gave me a hug. I was wearing this really ugly sweater that my aunt had given me in a cereal box for Christmas, because that's how she did Christmas presents in cereal boxes. It was a wool brown sweater. I don't think she ever knew what was in the boxes. She just put someone's name on it and gave it to us. It was a highlight of Christmas, honestly. I got a man's brown wool sweater and it was in Arizona, but I wore it because I had lack of options of clothing. And the other elder said, hey, I have that sweater. When I think of love, I think of our love story. So if I really did get Beer as a last name, I should have added more to that list, right?
Yeah, you should have.
I know.
But it's okay. Like you said, you can just keep adding now. I'm sure Ben will love it.
He has other qualities.
So I'm going to tell you about my first love. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm so excited.
Started when I was 5. I loved learning about Native Americans. My first love.
Can I say that?
No. I read books about them. I stared at pictures. My aunt and uncle had these encyclopedia of Old West, and it had all these original photographs, and I would just stare at them and go through all the pictures. How academic of a child was I? Just think about that. No nerdiness at all. Just completely understanding how you should act when you're 5 years old.
I think you're a dream child. I'd be so proud to be like, look at that child shining brightly with their Native American history book.
Well, it was probably because there weren't any kids my age when I was with them. And so I would just have to entertain myself by looking at pictures.
I did love Indian in the Cupboard. It was my favorite book when I was little.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
I forgot
same
about
kind
that
of
book. Anyway, so one of the people that I really got obsessed with was Chief Joseph. Chief Joseph was a Nez Perce. And I was obsessed with him because I loved learning about his honesty, his war strategies. I just thought they were so clever. But The other thing is that I also loved how much he tried to keep his people out of a war and out of fighting. And he tried to get the young men in his tribe to calm down and how he really did want to be peaceful. But I wanted to read something that he said in 1879, where he finally had the opportunity to give his side of the story between him and the U.S. military. So this is what he said. I believe much trouble and blood would be saved if we opened our hearts more. I will tell you in my way how I see things. The white man has more words, but it does not require many words to speak the truth. What I have to say will come from my heart. I will speak with a straight tongue. The Great Spirit is looking at me and will hear. I feel like this sums up how to fix the world right now. It's like Chief Joseph said, that the Great Spirit or God is watching, that we speak the truth, and then we open up our hearts. If we just did those three things, imagine what that would do for our society and our culture and the world. This reminded me of John 15, verse 17. Jesus said, "These things I command you, that you love one another." And that's it. How simple is that? And how many sad, terrible wars, crimes, whatever, if we just opened our hearts more and loved one another, how many heartbreaks would not have happened if we just did those simple things?
I love that you said love one another. It's that simple. Though it isn't always easy to love everybody. It is such a simple idea, though. It really is. I'm going to tell you a story that just came to mind that really shaped my life that my dad told me. He went to the same school I went to, so he grew up in the same small town. And when he was going there, I believe he had maybe 11 or 12 students in his class. And there was one boy who had a little limp when he walked. And my dad told me that everybody made fun of it. Even the boy did. So it was just like a group. Everyone was together. They did everything together and they all teased the limp. And he never thought they were being mean. It was just like an inside joke kind of a thing. My dad said he never thought about it too much until one day. He went to use the restroom in the middle of the day, and there in the bathroom was that boy, and he was sobbing.
That's terrible.
My dad tells the story with tears in his eyes because it really did impact him, because he truly didn't think they were being mean. And that boy, he would find out, was having a hard time getting through each day. This changed everything for my dad. He said, it was at this point that I made the decision that every single person I would meet for the rest of my life would always have at least one friend. He told me that story when I was maybe 11 or 12. And I decided I would be like my dad. Anyone I met also would have at least one friend. And my dad lived true to that. He brought home a lot of interesting characters our whole childhood. It didn't matter to him how strange or weird or funny they were. He would help everyone and he would love everybody. And he has lived that. It's such a simple act to love other people and to live that way, that everyone you meet will have one friend because your heart is open. So I love what you listed, because if we have an open heart, then the truth is going to come. And that's what happened for my dad, is that even though it was something that seemed so simple and just fun and silly, it was actually greatly impacting someone to not show more love, and it changed his whole life. And so it's a simple act to love one another.
I love that story. And if we think of Valentine's Day more as a day of truly loving each other and being friends to one another and opening our hearts, that's a really cool way to think of Valentine's Day.
I love that, because I was talking to my friend Valentine, who she has always loved Valentine's Day. And I know a lot of people don't like Valentine's Day, but she said that her mom made it so magical, that it was a day of love. Her mom would do very simple, cute things that were, I'm thinking of you, and little notes of, this is what I love about your personality. So my friend grew up always thinking that Valentine's Day was so much fun because it was an extra day that you could show extra love. And I thought that was so wonderful that her mom made it a day of love for everybody, love for your siblings, love for your friends. And do you actually know where Valentine's Day started or how it came about?
I know it was a saint.
Yes.
There you go.
There's a few. I watched the History Channel documentary on Valentine's Day. So there was a few. One, the pagan. I'm probably going to get some of this wrong. So I only watched it once and I didn't take notes. But
10 years ago.
I was cleaning the kitchen at the same time.
So this is highly accurate. No need to look into it or do your own research.
Don't send me an email about how wrong I got it. But the men would sacrifice. This is where it comes from as far as a pagan holiday, that the men would sacrifice a goat and a dog. And there was a reason behind those animals.
Don't listen, Rudy.
And then basically they'd make whips out of the animal and hit the women
This is the worst story I've ever heard. Why are you telling us this?
So if you hate Valentine's Day, imagine how much the ladies hated it back then. They're like, please, no, not Valentine's Day. So maybe you don't get the reservation you wanted, but you're not going to get beat with a dead goat. So there's perspective.
That's the worst story ever.
I know, it's insane. They believe that the beating, the whipping, was to help them be more fertile that year.
I have no words. Can we please talk about St. Valentine's? That was a terrible story.
I see nothing wrong with it. I thought I probably shouldn't share that, but there you go. I did anyway.
Thanks.
I'm doing it because I'm going to balance it out. So how did we go from getting whipped by a dead animal to getting a cute little note? I'll tell you. Saint Valentine. That is where it comes from. He was a Roman priest in the 3rd century, and the empire at the time wanted the young men to come and battle and get more gain. The emperor was finding that the young men didn't want to go to battle. They wanted to find a true love and get married and have kids and a family. And he said, this will not do. I'm not interested in this. How did we get so far away from beating the women to now we have to want to marry them and have kids? And so he wanted to go back to at least a medium.
All of this is factual. All of it. Just stick with it.
Believe me. So Saint Valentine, he said, I love love. I'm going to keep love alive. He started secretly marrying young couples.
Oh.
And he was arrested for that. And what I love so much is that because I actually liked this story, and as I studied and read and learned more about Saint Valentine, the story kept changing a little bit, and I just loved that so much. The first one was just real basic, he was secretly marrying couples, and then he got imprisoned for that and then killed, actually. The next one, they said, while he was in prison, he fell in love with a prison guard's daughter, and they were secretly married. So before he died, he wrote a note to her, and that's where the Valentines came from. The final one, the one that added a little bit more zest, was not only did he fall in love with the prisoner guard's daughter, but she was actually blind, and he healed her eyesight before he died with true love's kiss, and then was able to write a heart-shaped note that said, from your Valentine, and give it to her. But she was able to read it because she was no longer blind. The story kept getting better. Anyway, so that's how it started. So you think of that when you send out little letters, you think of St. Valentine.
I really like that story of St. Valentine's Day. And I'm going to tell you the first love story that I really understood because I was old enough, I guess, to get it. It's about my Uncle Kenneth and my Aunt Margaret. When Garth Brooks became big, one of his very first songs was If Tomorrow Never Comes. And the chorus of the song is, if tomorrow never comes, will she know how much I loved her? Did I try in every way to show her every day that she's my only one? And if my time on earth were through and she must face this world without me, is the love I gave her in the past going to be enough to last if tomorrow never comes? When my Uncle Kenneth first heard it, he loved it. And he told my Aunt Margaret, this is going to be our song from now on. I love this song. And that was their song. It'd come on the radio. They'd listen to it. It was their song. A few months later, my Uncle Kenneth and my Aunt Margaret were in a small plane crash. And my uncle died, but my Aunt Margaret lived. I remember when I went to go see my Aunt Margaret, she was bruised from head to toe. She was so stoic, just brave as could be. But that was the first time in my life because I was 20 years old and I had never, ever seen anyone's heart break like that before. Her heart was completely broken. But this song was her connection to my uncle for the next 13 years of her life. When my Aunt Margaret died, I was asked to sing and play this song on my guitar at her funeral. Oh, it was so difficult and so hard, but I knew it meant so much to my Aunt Margaret, and it was important that song happen at her funeral. So just remember that deep, deep love that my Aunt Margaret had for my Uncle Kenneth. Now I want to read this letter that Helen Keller sent to Alexander Graham Bell. Helen Keller wrote, "How strange it is, I never knew how dearly I loved my father until I realized that I had lost him. I think we do not know the depth of love in our hearts until some dreadful sorrow reveals it to us, and then we realize a little what God's love must be like." So I want you to think of the depth of love that my Aunt Margaret had for my Uncle Kenneth, and think of the depth of love Helen Keller had for her father. And think of the depth of love, Cydni, that you have for people that you love in your life and that I have. And each one of you listening, think of the people you have in your life and that depth and that deep love that you truly have for your family, your kids, your spouse, your friends, your parents. Think of that deep love. That is a little of what God's love must be like towards us. God's love is perfect. It is unconditional. It is the ultimate definition of love. God loved us so much. It says in John 3, verse 16, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." All of this reminds me, thinking about the depth of love that Jesus Christ has for each one of us. The song, "I Stand All Amazed." The song says, "I stand all amazed at the love Jesus offers me, confused at the grace that so fully he proffers me. I tremble to know that for me he was crucified, that for me, a sinner, he suffered, he bled and died. Oh, it is wonderful that he should care for me enough to die for me. Oh, it is wonderful, wonderful to me." Our Savior loves us so deeply. In the depth, I just don't understand how he loved us so much that he was willing to be crucified for me, a sinner. It is truly wonderful.
I love that you went that direction, because even though Ben and I have a really fun how we met story, we have been together long enough to have some dark times together. We've had struggles even in our own marriage and in our love and trying to understand each other, because we couldn't be more opposite, as you know. And one time during a harder season, I remember I was at the gym listening to Kanye West when I had something come to me. I thought a lot of times love, when we look at it in the perspective of Hollywood, it is just bliss and joy, and it doesn't feel like there's too many bumps in the road. It's just magic all of the time. When we got married, someone told us, "My advice to you is to understand that you will fall in and out of love your whole marriage. The trick is to make sure you do the work to fall back into love." And I really appreciated that, because it's true. There are times it's a little low, and then there's times where it's just bliss, but it's not always happy. And if you fall out of love, it doesn't mean your marriage is over. It means you fight to get back. But when we look at, usually in a Hollywood movie, the end is they're together and everyone's happy. But it's what happens after that, the real love comes into play. And the thought I had while listening to Kanye West was, what's interesting is the greatest act of love that has ever existed on this earth was not a Hollywood story. It was an ultimate sacrifice. There was beating and blood and scourging, and it was a terribly painful experience, but it was the greatest act of love. And so why do we expect love to be a certain way when the greatest act of love was so painful? And so I thought to myself, of course, this would make more sense, that real love is going to have a whole lot of messiness to it, and it's going to require work, and it's going to require sacrifice. In every relationship, whether it's with our parents, whether it's with our children, whether it's with a neighbor or our spouse, if it is real love, it will require real sacrifice and real work. And I do believe, looking back on the years with my husband, that there's so much there that is just not replaceable. We have been too many battles together. We have gotten through too many things together, that the infatuation I felt when I first laid eyes on him and I loved him and he was so handsome. From today, coming on our 19th year of marriage, we look back and there's a lot of beatings there. But what has happened and the times I have felt the most loved by him are the times that he has stuck by me through my worst. And I feel like that's my job with my friends and my family, is that even at their worst, we still love them and we are still there for them. I believe that real love is a constant lifting of others. Even when they need discipline, you're still lifting and helping them reach their potential. We don't pull each other down. We lift everything we do. Just like a quote my mother-in-law shared with me, you are either a drain or you're a fountain. Be a fountain. And we can make that decision. And we can make a decision to fall in love again with the people that we need to love. And when relationships get rocky, we do the work and we fall in love again. And that creates something that you cannot replace. I want to end with a C.S. Lewis quote. He married when he was, I think, at 58. He married a woman that he says was completely his opposite. But before they got married, she was diagnosed with terminal bone cancer, and he wanted to call off the wedding. He said, "I cannot handle go through losing a spouse. That is too much pain. And Joy said to him, the joy and the bliss and the love that will exist before the pain will be worth it. And they were married in her hospital room. And he would lose her. It's heartbreaking, but he would go on, and he writes about love a lot. And he would go on to say that the pain was worth it, that they had 3 years of bliss and fun and love, and it lit up his whole world. But the pain he felt after was darker than he had ever experienced. And he talks a lot about how love requires vulnerability. And I'm going to share with you this quote by C.S. Lewis. To love at all is to be vulnerable. Love anything and your heart will be wrung and possibly broken. If you want to make sure of keeping it intact, you must give it to no one, not even an animal. Wrap it carefully round with hobbies and little luxuries. Avoid all entanglements. Lock it up safe in the casket or coffin of your selfishness. But in the casket, safe, dark, motionless, airless, it will change. It will not be broken. It will become unbreakable, irredeemable. To love is to be vulnerable.
This brings us to our final thoughts. We want to be vulnerable in a healthy way, and we want to be a fountain and not a drain. This reminds me of one of my very favorite quotes of all time, which is in 1 John chapter 4, verse 19. It's very simple. It says, "We love him because he first loved us." When I first started teaching, I had that scripture just come to my head over and over again, that it was my job as a teacher to be vulnerable and show those kids that I just wanted to love them where they were at that time. And that was good enough for me. And to think that we have a Savior that loves all of us where we are now, I'm so grateful for that. And I'm so grateful for him in my life and that stability. Alan T. Phillips said, "You are his child. If you are feeling lost, if you have a question or lack wisdom, if you are struggling with your circumstances or wrestling with spiritual dissonance, turn to him, pray to him for comfort, love, answers, and direction. Whatever the need and wherever you are, pour out your heart to your Heavenly Father. For some, you may want to follow President Nelson's invitation and ask, if he is really there, if he knows you, ask him how he feels about you, and then listen."
Our challenge this week comes from a Zig Ziglar talk. He said that every 6 months of his life, he would imagine his life without the people he loves the most. He would imagine what it would feel like if he lost his parent or lost one of his children or his spouse or a friend that's very close to him. He would think about it until he was moved to tears at the loss. And what this would do to him is it would help him love better now. Our challenge is to love better now. We challenge you, especially the week of Valentine's, to love better now. Love those people in your life now and give them the love that they deserve, and open your heart to love better. Above all, we challenge you to remember and believe that you are loved. You are loved by a loving Heavenly Father who wants the best for you.
This is our prayer
From Cydni and Sher.
I'm forging my way through the tip top. I'm living my life through the drip drop. When eternity's plan, I just can't stop. I'm making my way through the drip drop.
Lots goes on in that head.
It's unfortunate for all of us. So today's...
I was going to say something snarky, but then I realized my feelings were hurt.
Sorry.
It's okay. Let's get back to love. Am I going too far off of what you were? Okay.
You're never too far off, Cydni. Just stop. Whatever you're going to say, don't say it. Just stop.
Your reaction was too good. I think I overdosed on NyQuil. If you can't say something nice, I don't remember. I hate that saying. Just kidding. I think you should say, and just like this episode, love never makes sense. Have a great week.